Hello everyone, it's Lee Davis, and it is time once again for the unboxing of my latest works. These are always big days for me, where many hours of exhausting, obsessive, creative work comes to a close and is concluded with the very satisfying moment of receiving your copies on your doorstep and getting to hold them and look them over. This is every time something like this happens, in particular over the past 6 years, is just a really great experience. Because when I was 40, and I've said this, when I was 40, I decided it was time to redo every medium I've ever obsessed over creating in, and doing it to the best of my ability, and considering, and just whether the world wants it or not, just to treat it like my grand finale, as much energy and passion and just all the ideas, everything I can muster to create in these mediums. It was time to do it again, and it got going, and it just, as you can see, it took quite a long time. It's just been a very exhausting, constant work, and every time I get another big project done, I just feel lighter. I feel more like I can say, well, I'm pretty much finished. And I've talked at length about my youth and just how difficult it was, and really in many ways impossible, pretty much impossible it was to create in these mediums. I mean, I could get into the details of the hows and why, but it was, I will just say here and now, it was made impossible for me to pursue these dreams. And once again, I always state for the record, my artistic side, I never was putting all of my eggs in that basket. It was just this burning desire that I just needed an outlet for. And when it was not nurtured, well, the burning desire just kind of got lodged right around here, and it got out of control, and it just, my head was on fire, and it became the most of not being able to release it onto a medium, was just the most, I don't actually have the word for it. It got me in such a bad rut. It's like I couldn't even focus on real life. I remember the times the times where I would break away from those things that were pressing me down, had a boot to my neck, down against my head against the pavement for doing these things. When I finally escaped those brief little times where I would escape, and I got this kind of wonderful harmonious thing where I would go to work, I would create, I would go do activities, I would socialize. Just having a normal life was such a rare thing for me. But I remember those times, and then once I was reined back in, oh, they're good. No, you don't. It was back to. It was just in its way, it was a very troublesome time in many ways, and I don't say that as though I've had any better or worse than anybody else. But my creative life it just suffered tremendously. And being able to finally, when I got away permanently, where I could do these things without people stealing my tools, throwing my work away, cutting me off from resources, it was the what would you say, the world had really been depopulated. There were a lot less, many things that passed me by, and I was kind of left to my own devices, where once upon a time there had been things waiting for me. What are you waiting for, Lee? Come on over here, let's go do this thing. I was like, I can't, but so anyway, before I get too deep into all that, when I did break away, it was a furious struggle, and I was in my talents. Well, once upon a time, I had been very advanced. I had been way ahead of my peers, but it had been stagnated because I was kept away from places where it received no nurturing. My tools were, I would be in these wastelands. Just horrible things happened to me where I just could not. I had no access. I had no way of growing these things, and I was so out of it and strung out in such a basket case. When it was time to go, I did okay. I did some pretty good stuff that turned. Some people liked it quite a bit, and but it was, it just was not up to form. And when I was 40, I said, I think I'm there now. Let me do all these things again. So anyway, that would include. Getting down to it, the mediums, of course, were doing death metal. I had to do another death metal album, a full death metal album. all these things apply with with all the passion and ideas and creativity, just everything I can work into this to make it as close to the perfected image as I have it in my head, and achieving that goal with my limited resources and limited budget. So a death metal album, and for the record, that was a conversation to be had with the metal people, peers who never showed up or never wrote back. No one ever asked me, but it was a synthetic death metal album. The guitars were all fake because I can't play the guitar too good, which goes back to why I was always cut off from those resources and that nurturing environment and other musicians, just like everything else. But I was not getting the riffs in my head that this music burning in my head since I was a child. Trying to find another guitarist who could understand this and get with it and make it happen with me just never panned out. And I just couldn't play good enough on the guitar. And at one point, with the advent of technology and synthetic music, I said, I'm doing a synthetic death metal album. Anyway, I got into all that, but that's just an example of how I said I am doing my death metal album opus. I'm doing it is just, I have this idea that I need a guitarist for, but I don't have that guitarist. So the only way I'm going to make it happen is if I synthesize it, which in essence takes away its death metal card. It's not true death metal. It's synthetic death metal. So call it whatever the heck you want. But that's a perfect example of just how I have to create it. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, then movies. We did a comedic horror movie, and of course I want to make something, like what you might, stream, these old Italian zombie exploitation movies and what. I mean, going way back to when I was a child, just to backpedal here a little bit. When I was really little, I wanted to make my own, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth knockoff movies. I wanted to do my own Jim Henson dark fantasy, gnarly fantasy film with puppets and, adventure and all that good stuff. And then, of course, I also wanted to do my Star Wars knockoff film. And, once again, it just goes, it's, I don't need to tell you at this point, but it was completely, denied access. There's a camera over there. What camera? It was like that. So, these things never happen. So at one point, it's just like me and what I can find around the house, and making movies to the best of my ability. And I'm very thankful. My daughter was just a tremendous help, a tremendous talent. The friends that showed up to help me, the brothers that showed up to help me, everybody that helped and put it together. So it's real cheesy. It's shot on an iPhone. Got like this little boom mic. I was holding on a stick. But yeah. So anyway, I got carried away with that. Death metal album, horror movies, as you've already figured out. Horror novels, which we're going to get to today. That's the most latest development. And horror graphic novels. I grew up loving horror comics, and in more recent years, Junji Ito has been just my drug. As far as horror comics go, nothing has really hit the nail on the head like Junji Ito's work. I'm looking right now at my adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow Out of Time by Go Tanabe, or however you pronounce that, Gao Tanabe. That's a good one. But anyway. Just my own, I see something that moves me, a movie, I listen to a death metal album, I read a graphic novel. I said, I need to do my own version of this, my me version of this. So look for a similar feel, but my ideas, my vision, my angle on this medium, or on this genre. And so what do we got? We got did the death metal album. Did the graphic novel. Did another novel most recently. I did get into video games. That was something I never thought. That was a dream that I thought I would never get. Even back when I was a teenager, I said that'd be awesome. It don't help when nobody will even get you a computer. You are in a wasteland. You can never even consider potentially, or even being around people who have the resources that you can put your heads together with. I was just completely barred from getting with other people who we could pull resources. It was just, I was stranded. But then one day, what do you know? I'm taking my daughter to coding class, and I was like, yeah, and I made my own video game. So I did video game that actually ties all the even it has music from my death metal album, and my synth music I do. All this was of a common universe where they're all interconnected. Characters would cross over from the character in the novel. He appears in the game. The main character, the protagonist, is from the graphic novel. There's music from my death metal album. And they go to all these locations that are in these stories. In you know, the last one we did was Bloody Puke Death on Owen Island, and um, you are going to the same you're meeting the same characters, some of which showed up in this, like my brothers and my friends' characters, my daughter and me. We all show up in the video game along with characters from the book and all this stuff. It's just it's pretty wild. It's so interwoven. It became fairly convoluted in a palatable way, not overwhelming or obnoxious or chaotic. It's, you know, if I do say so myself. Yeah. What other thing? Yeah. So I've done a lot. I've been doing a lot of. It's been a lot of comics, a lot of music, a lot of movie making. We did our show, video games. Been doing all that over the past 6 years. And where I'm going with all this is like, you know, at this point, 6 years later, after I embarked on this journey, just to say I'm finished, I'm going to keep creating in smaller doses. Um, every large project I knock out is so much work, but as soon as I'm done, it feels like I just lifted a big rock off my back. And this is, once again, it's like I can breathe better, I can move better, I can see better when I get these projects done. That's why I said on those brief moments where I would escape the oppression when I was growing up, I could breathe, I could see, I could work at my own pace, I could get these things done, set them aside, and then I would just function better. Does that make sense? You know, it's like I had a career, you know, while I was out there, I had a career where I was up for promotions before I'd even worked the mandatory 6 months. You know, so many things were happening. It was incredible. I say, if you just let me go for a minute, you know, you'll see what I can do. But, you know, there were people who just couldn't stand that. And I wasn't sure if I was going to cover this. We will get to actual unboxing after 12 minutes. You know, I figured out what was going on is ever since I was a child, and, you know, I did spend that dark period of time where I felt forsaken. I just felt, what is the point of this? In my faith, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I grew up and I always wanted, you know, we say we do things for the glory of God. You know, and you say, well, that doesn't make sense if you're making a horror graphic novel or death metal. And I'm like, well, you know, hey, you can look at it however you want, but I don't want to make purely secular work. So what that is to say, you might look at it and say, oh, the horror book, that's dumb. I'm gonna go listen to Taylor Swift or some crap like that. You know, you might say that, but my whole point, you know, there's a story. Obviously, there's characters, there's character development. I'm not the best. I'm not gonna like say I'm anything great or amazing, even though I know I am. I'm not going to say it because egos get, you know, there's so many conflicting egos who get so ticked off and frustrated when talents show up that they you know, it's just so I don't want to say anything or toot my own horn too much. But when I look at what's on, you know, the streaming service, I watched that stupid show the other day, and I'm said, this is crap. I mean, you got monsters, you got fighting, you got drama, but this is all cookie cutter crap. You know, what you get with me is that, you know, I do have real characters that do go through real transformations. This isn't like a checking off the list, you know, politically correct exercise in how, you know, phony virtuous I can be. Like so many of these other people are so upset. People in the industry, it's a mess. It sucks how much money is in this crap. Maybe it's better I never did break out if I had to be surrounded by that crap. And they said, so this is a good story, Lee, but do you think you can, you know, can you turn it into, can you make it like all safe and woke and politically correct and just, you know, take the spine out of it? And you know, I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. Where was I? Oh Lord, I lost myself. That was good. Let me try to get back on track to where I was. I started ranting. I apologize. Okay, let's go back to when I said I just felt lighter, and I can just see the world better. I can just take it as it comes. I can live in harmony with God's word. Oh yeah, that's right. I want for people, if you experience my work, when you put it down, love it or hate it, I want you to feel better. I want to give strength, God's strength. You know what I'm saying? I think, and that's the stuff that really moves me. There's cheap entertainment, there's cheap thrills, which I is a fair amount of my diet, because but every once in a while you get something that says, like, opens your eyes, makes you feel better. That's why I love Dean Koontz. You read one of his stories, and I might not be as grotesque as like what I really look for in horror fiction, even though Dean is not a horror author, of course, but he is fantastic. He does dark, crazy, violent stuff, but everyone comes out stronger, and it makes you feel strong. You look at the characters. You take Odd Thomas was the first book I read by Dean Koontz. That's suggested by my father, by the way. He's a fry cook, and but he goes up against this really intimidating evil, and he comes out stronger for it. He goes through all this stuff. He loses someone very important in his life, and he just keeps trucking. Even at a young age, to have that tragedy befall him. Stuff like this. I'm going on and on. Yeah. So what I realized is when I was trying to, when I was natural, you see, I see when people are creating with God, and whether they come out and say it, that has yet to be determined. I think if you feel better and stronger and you want to go do good, then no matter what label is on it, you're doing God's work. You're helping people through your art, through your craft. And that's some of my favorite artists. I already said Dean Koontz, but you also got Sly Stallone. Even it might be a little more subjective, but Junji Ito, even though you got bad endings, and I wouldn't call it nihilistic, but I think even if you have entertainment or just feel good in some way, it does not have to be objectively just the way I'm describing, but just good. Good work is just good work, and if it leaves you feeling better or even just motivates you to create, who is to argue with that? And I would even say, if you feel better, even if the work itself. You take one of my favorite shows in the world, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a raunchy, disgusting, low. It's just, but it is so daggone funny and inspirational. It uplifts me in a creative sense, And even they, for a lot of their attitudes on things, and just how dark and depraved and deranged it gets, the humor completely clicks. And so I would even say even that. I said death metal. I thank God for death metal. I thought to myself one day, I said, art, death metal, horror movies, comics, is an antidote for the pain of the secular world, for the beat downs we might take mentally, emotionally, physically. It can be rough out there, but art is, and you look back on something that happened to you. Oh, that hurts, and no one wants to listen, no one wants to understand, but you listen to a death metal album, you read a cool book, you read a good comic, you watch a good movie, and it helps you. If it helps you process it, that's a good thing. So it's like I say, I think God is the answer. God is salvation. God is the truth. God is the cure. But art, be it secular or not, is an antidote. I think it's here for us to use, to take in responsibly, and not to worship it, but to to take these things of the world just like we'd take food for nourishment. That's how I look at art. And I'll say one more time, what I see going on out there, especially with the people who I think are not, you take it or leave it. I'm not against it, but one thing I've noticed is the nastiest people who seem to just want to shoot down everybody in that field, on that level, instead of lift them up. I've met those kind of people. I've met both kinds of people. And, I say when people show up and they're very, they just have some snarky, condescending, sneering, leering BS to throw at you because you dared to create. You see it all the time. It makes it a little, it complicates things a little bit, but I got that terrible review the other day. I love it. Maybe I can even look it up, and then I swear we're going to open this box right here. Decayed. I love this. I've often thought, like, this dude, instead of doing reviews like this, save your, what you should do, and you don't have to get a t-shirt professionally pressed. You can just take a Sharpie and write it on a t-shirt and just keep it legible. But if you just wore a t-shirt around that says you're a douchebag, it's more or less the same thing as writing 1 star, putting 1 star and saying this is thing. He forgot the S. Whatever. I won't criticize him for that imperfection. This is thing that would be mildly impressive if it were made by a 6th grader. Oh, you're killing me. Humorless and juvenile. That's me. 1 star. He wrote 1 star as if you didn't see it right there. So these people crack me up. And, it's like I said, I think it's funny because I didn't make it big. I say this other stuff was crap. It was crap. I was watching crap the other day. I said the money it must have taken to make this film, astronomical. I was looking at I said 3 seconds of this is like more money than what I could, is more budget. 3 seconds of this crappy, ridiculous, dumb show, worthless and lame show is more expensive than like everything I've done over the past 6 years probably. Just looking at the effects in that was, amazing and it's breathtaking, but it's like, dude, what a shame you couldn't have like done something good. This crap story, this melodramatic, like everyone's crying, like this emotional sabotage that this show was, just like is, oh my God, I could go on and on. But it's like, it's like, why find the guy who's got like no following, no readership, no money, and just not much going for him, but he's done his best. Why take a shot at it? It's like it's got to be like offensively bad before I'm going to do something like this. So people like this are pathetic. I often say, Sly said it, you stick your neck out, someone's going to try and chop it off. People just are angry that you are doing something. And frankly, I don't agree with this. I put a lot of work. Well, there it is. I put a lot of work and love into Decayed Network. I can't believe we're at 22 minutes. I'll just put a warning if I post this that what you're going to get is what's the word? You're going to get about, you go to the 22 mark if you want to actually look at the unboxing. I won't even call this unboxing, just reflection followed by unboxing. I've gone on long enough, I might as well say, hi. Yeah, so this was a lot of work, and it's meant to say, it's about a girl who's had a horrible family tragedy, and you don't just hit it on the head and it's not like, bam, did I get your emotions? Ooh, so it's like there's a story, it develops. We meet people, you start to wonder. I think the one thing I didn't even like consciously do, but with this character, Millie, what I think is interesting is she has suffered tremendously, but she's too young to even really process what exactly happened. Why someone would do this, why someone would hurt her family for no reason like this. And so when she moves out to the boonies to get away from all the squalor and crime and nasty crap of the city, she's got defenses, but she knows she's not going to get into a fist fight. She saw what happened. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I mean, her strength won't do her any good. She was, she was hurt very bad, but she came out of it. The others not so much, but she doesn't want anybody to hurt what's left of her family. So, if someone's messing with her, she looks real sweet, but she might just, and she is, because she's got such a pure soul, but she was cornered into a situation where she had to manufacture this defense mechanism to get back at people who are trying to hurt her, but to do it, in the narcissistic way. Not that she's a narcissist, but like to really get under their skin, really bother them with things she says or does. And you start to see this, you're like, damn, she's like, but in effect, she's nurturing a demon. She's growing this darkness inside of her that might get the better of her. She's just a child. So I was like, this is wild, and you see these other kids who are just virtuous. They just want to help each other, and they're against all these others who, it's like in the real world, they're just out for their own image, and they like stepping on people. This is not, that's, this, and if you feel, that you, if you identify with that, I think you'll like this. I'm like, this moron, this is the stupidest, it's just like, I totally don't agree. It's not, to say that I don't think I'm the best creator in the world, but I don't deserve that. Like humorless and juvenile is like, do you even know what the point is? It's not like it's not, I start to think a lot of these people are like, they're used to all this stupid, brainless, like just, brainless. I'm hesitant to use the word anime, but just you see what's popular, and it's just like these cute characters bouncing around, and being like, this politically correct drivel, and it's just trying so hard to be cute, it gets nauseating. And excuse me, maybe if you're used to that, then I can see where this might make you go, oh, that's not like the 8 million other things out there. I don't get it. But then just leave it alone. You invested $3 in a Kindle release. Just leave it alone. And that brings up one other thing. I think, I've been mean. When I was a young man, I was mean, and I know I was mean to some people. And I've said it before. I tried to shock people. I tried to offend people. I tried to put people off. But I've said I was hurting, and I was confused, and I had been hurt so badly that at one point I really started to think everyone that got close to me might have something that might be getting ready to hurt me. And it made things so confusing. But I started seeing enemies where they didn't exist. And I'd be mean to people who didn't deserve it. And I hate that. But it's like, I've repented, and I really just don't, I guess I just don't want, I don't know. I don't want to be associated with that messed up young man I was. Where those demonic fingers were so in my head and just messing me up so bad from the things that had been done to me, and what the world was like to me, and just how bad things got. And I think like so it occurs to me. I said every once in a while, I'm like, maybe I ticked somebody off. Maybe I was mean to somebody who just said, "Oh, you're doing dumb comics." Well, 1 star. I can't think of much other reason. Why would you be so bored that you'd take time out for the guy who's got like no readership, no reviews, nothing is going on with all the hard work he's put out there, and be that one guy who puts 1 star just because what? It's not like this other idiotic crap. So we've gone on about that, but check it out. My new novel. For the first time, I'm holding Murky Spectrum. Oh my gosh. There's my endorsement. See? Dean Koontz likes it. Martin Trafford likes it. Who else likes it? Dan Royer likes it. Scott Nicholson likes it. And I worked with Scott Nicholson many years ago. And this is not a graphic novel. This is a novel. There they are. Did you read it all? Well, too bad. I guess you're going to have to buy it. Yeah, so I got the... And, this is, I'm almost done, folks, but there's the hardcover. This just is such a big deal to me. This means so much to me. All this work I put into this, and I'm just so happy with it. I really am. And that's, in the end, that's what matters. And I think I did good by the gifts God gave me, and I overcame the things that were trying to kill me. I mean, there was a time where all the voices and everyone was telling me you're useless and you got to, you're not here for any reason. Nothing you do is good, which just equates to, well, why am I here? They accuse you of being a bad person because you're not doing things that are completely in opposition to the way God created you to be. And it gets really confusing and difficult. And you start to think, well, why am I here? And then the devil says, well, why don't you just have some kicks? And then when you're done, when there's nothing left, once you can't have any more, go drink some beer, watch some movies, relax, take it easy, eat some junk food. Who cares? You're going to die anyway. And when you're done, kill yourself, Sounds dark, but that's the voice I heard for a long, long time, until God's light came into me and vanquished all that crap. Thank you, God. So, yeah, and just to say, this thing was sitting right here for the longest time. I was like, oh man, look at that. Yeah, got others in here. Yeah, the Giblets books. I just reordered these because I ran out of them. I found a couple typos and flaws, and this is 9 books right there. 9 novella length young adult books that. By the time I got done, I realized I said no one likes them. They're so politically incorrect. Everyone's going to pee their pants if they read them anyway. And they are... I'm actually doing the 10th my daughter had some ideas. I said that she wanted to see in this because it follows the adventures of the fantastical adventures of my daughter, and she had some ideas. I said, all right, I'll do it. And this one, I went, it is so over the top. It is so politically incorrect. Like, woke people just don't even bother with it. I know you're gonna hate it. And I totally rip on everybody who gets mad at opposing opinions, who has a fit over things like this, who doesn't follow that very narrow, politically correct path that everyone's been bullied onto. I'll have nothing to do with it. That is limiting. That is the neutering of creativity. That is actually creative enslavement. That it's destroying the freedom of creativity. It's hijacking our imaginations, and it's bullcrap, and I'll have nothing to do with it. And if that makes some people cry, if I need some trigger warnings, then oh well, And I'm not taking swipes at people. I'm just saying stuff that is not with the secular world's narrow viewpoint, And so whatever, I don't care. Yeah. Now, what else? I think that's it. We got a bunch of copies of Murky Spectrum, my novel, Decayed Network, my graphic novel, Giblets, the compendium. Yeah, it's those. I'm so happy with how they look. I'll take a closer look when I'm done here. But check them out. This has gone on a half hour. This is not. I can't call this an unboxing anymore because I didn't even really look at these too much. Where's my? Let's see my author photo. Oh yeah, looky there. There's our movie, Bloody Death Puke on Owen Island. There's the Giblets advertisement. Who cannot love this? Humorless and juvenile advertisements for the death metal, some of the death metal albums. I did like a death metal album, then I followed it up with an EP, and then I really went for broke and actually made my cover CD where I did cover versions of my favorite bands. I did that. I did an album of cover songs and death metal songs. That was awesome. I've been all over the place. I'm working on another video game now. I've actually done 2 video games. One's a Game Boy emulator where a guy goes to like cannibal. It's a tribute to Italian exploitation films and Hong Kong exploitation films. So it was cannibals. All that good stuff as a Game Boy Game Boy emulator. For those of us that know what Game Boy was, and it's all on itch.io. It's been a crazy 6 years, just getting this stuff done. And I was even thinking it feels kind of like Asteroids. If this past 6 years was playing Asteroids, this was blasting the last really big asteroid out of the sky, and now it's just little asteroids after this. It's like I'm doing the audio version of the new Giblets book, the one my daughter special ordered. Finishing that up, that'll be out soon. After that, Murky Spectrum is going to continue. Decayed Network is going to continue in smaller installments, like comic issues. There's the censored version of Decayed Network on, check my link tree, and it's all there because, I don't expect you to remember all this, but yeah, Decayed Network is going to continue. The censored installments you can read for free on Webtoons, and then of course the Kindle versions of the full comics as they come. The Webtoons releases every 3 pages. The Kindle releases every 22 pages. Smaller stories for Murky Spectrum is going to continue on and explore a lot of stuff with the surrounding areas. It might even go to some tropical locations. It's what I'm aiming to do. And I did that with I attempted this with a previous project I did years ago called Jext, which kind of faded out. No one asked for more of it, and then Murky Spectrum just became my thing. And finalizing that novel really brought it to completion, but leaving open where I can continue it with novellas, novelettes, and short stories, depending on the word length, and they will be released on Kindle. And if one fills out a whole and once it gets to a certain point, I might release a physical copy of story collections, all kinds of things. But I got the graphic novel done of Decayed Network, and now I can just, this is the liberating thing. I can just create comics. I got the graphic novel done by compiling 5 issues. And from here on out, just an issue here, issue there. If another paperback happens, that's wonderful, but I'm just too old and I've spent too much time on this to really exhaust my energy and my time and deplete my health, because I spend hours sitting at my desk doing this stuff, and I just want to be out and moving a little bit more, and which requires me to not be committed to those long periods of time where I am down in my basement for hours on end creating endlessly. It's a lot, but yeah, I'm just zapping those little asteroids now, and it's such a beautiful, liberating feeling. Oh, you know what? I'll show you, just because it's right over here. I got this delivery earlier, so I guess this is just as much part of it, but I do have, if for those of you that are interested, I mean, if I can get it out. I mean, this is Emily's Radical Christmas Madness, the Giblets entry. This is the 8th book, I think, in this series. My daughter liked it so much, we've read it for the past 3 Christmases since it's been written. And I just said, you know what, it deserves a spiffy new cover. That was the original Ghetto cover I just rushed, and I said it deserves a new cover in its own book, because I mean it was only on Kindle, and then of course you have the story if you get the compendium, the Giblets compendium. And a coloring book. I was asked to do this many years ago, and the guy disappeared who was asking me to do it. Nice guy, but I think the person who was producing it passed away, sadly. It was actually a guy who used to work on it, I believe, is the same guy who used to work on a zombie comic that I read as a young man, as a teenager, and that the guys from Cannibal Corpse read. And yeah, he produced. I could be mistaken, but I believe the original coloring book was to be produced by the guy who originally conceived, co-produced, whatever, co-created or created Dead World, which is where Vince Locke, who would later work with Neil Gaiman, got his start. So yeah, I almost did work for that guy, but I think he passed away. If I'm giving you bad information, I apologize. But then the editor he was working through, a real nice guy, just kind of vanished and never got back to me, and I had all these drawings, so self-published it. There's Cthulhu, recognize him? Yeah, as you can see, they originally wanted this for the cover, and I said I kind of like this. I mean, because it's simple and just jumps out a little more. Even though this is, of course, a little more involved. But yeah, coloring book of Lovecraftian creatures, why not, right? It was a cool idea. It's novel. I don't really go for stuff that is... cute sounds condescending, but I mean, yeah, cute. Just stuff that little geeky collectible stuff. I just have my own vision of what I want to do, and I would not normally think of something like that just because I say, coloring book. Where's the, it's just a coloring book. I want to write a story. But it's cool. I look at it. I'm glad I did it. That was years ago. I'm almost done. Yeah. It's just, I think as far as physical copies, I'm not looking to get, I got the Blu-rays of our last couple of movies. And from here out, also the movies, by the way, I still am really into film, but it's just, I realize how futile and pointless it is when you're generating pennies for streaming your movies on, streaming services, said, I can't, it'd be cool to make a lot of feature-length films, but for the same reason, the kind of work it entails is insane. So we're going to continue on with the Decayed Network web series. And the first episode we did a while ago before I got on these other things. I'm going to return to that soon. And we're talking episodes with a goal length of 4 minutes, where the first was like 22 minutes. So 4 minutes minimum, probably. So we're just going to do very light, quick shows, and as the ideas come. And it's a great feeling to just be in harmony with the world once again, and not in such a mad rush where I'm so plugged into these projects where they're consuming me because I just need to get them done before I can move on with my life. That's really how it feels. And that is the nature of a creative obsession. I need to do this thing. Why? There's no money in it. Well, no, it's like, maybe it'll make money someday. That's not the point. The point is I need to make my masterpiece. I got to. And maybe everyone hates it. Maybe everyone's scoffing, rolling their eyes. This isn't the same politically correct
safe nonsense that I watch on those streaming services. This isn't like what I get on that one channel that has the,
sorry, I'm getting corny, but it's like, you know, I get it. It's not for everybody. It's very niche. I think the crowd is out there. I guess we just haven't. I don't know. It'd be cool if people started reading it, but that's besides the point. At one point I had to accept. I said, well, because of what was done to me, I'll never know if I would have made it in my teens, my 20s, my 30s. More than halfway through my 40s, and I'm just whatever, man. It's just the feeling of getting stuff done, and having these things completed, these visions completed and in my hands. I love this feeling, and I know you other creative types do too. My daughter has set up her I think it's Emily Davis Artwork, her Etsy store, etsy.com/Emily Davis Artwork. Give it a shot. And mine is Lee Davis Art, etsy.com/Lee Davis Artwork. We started some printifies. I got one Decade Network shirt out. It's pretty slick. They ain't cheap, well, no, actually, by today's the budget of today, what you pay for a shirt, it's not bad. It's just ain't cheap, but it's not a bootleg from Cambodia either. Oh, was that politically incorrect? Oh, sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I love Cambodia, by the way. If you're listening, you're in Cambodia. I think Cambodia is awesome, but I was just hypothetically speaking, if someone was making bootleg shirts in Cambodia, then there you go. Whatever. Where was I before I talked about bootlegging shirts, black market shirts in Cambodia? Yeah, Decade Network shirts coming out. My daughter's amazing dragon and animal and cartoon character shirts. And phone. We just ordered one of her own one of a kind iPhone cases. Me and the should arrive in the next week or so. Lots of exciting stuff. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff out there. The market is flooded, but you want creepy, crazy, cool, awesome, endorsed by some amazing people. See, these people said I was good, and they ain't lying. even if some of them wimps out there gonna have a little hissy fit about it. You go read your, how can I say this without actually trashing a franchise, without stepping on toes? Like a franchise that's big enough that they don't care what I think, that I think sucks. I just be vague. Go watch your mainstream Netflix anime series and you'll be nice and safe there. Nice and safe. No triggers. No story, but no triggers. And life is good. Forget about those people who sacrifice, fighting overseas, doing actual real stuff like that. Forget about all that because you got upset because the cartoon hurt your feelings. Oh no! Oh, you better give them 1 star on Amazon. Oh, life is so unfair. Ha 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 ha. Okay. I love you all. God bless you. Remember, help one another. So this trashing people for no real apparent reason, because that ain't right. That ain't true. That's just straight. That's just bull. Some of the stuff people say, that's bull. You're a weakling if you actually go that route. Also, but having said that, I'm sorry if I make myself a hypocrite. These other shows suck. I'm done. I gotta shut up. I got other things I gotta get onto. I can't believe we've gone almost to 45 minutes, but this is a big day for me. It feels good to just let these thoughts out. Maybe I'll post it. Maybe I won't. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'm sorry. I just, how it is when we're all hanging out and I say goodbye, but I just don't. As soon as I leave, it's just me and myself. You know what? I got my books to keep me company. Hey, y'all have a wonderful day. God bless you. Bye-bye.